Welcome back to GA Fan TV. Meath 3-14, Cork 19 points. Meath get the victory at Páirc Uí Chaoimh. They beat Cork in their own backyard. What a huge win for Colm O'Rourke's men. His first game as manager of the Meath senior footballers, and he couldn't have scripted it any better with a win away in Cork against a side that many people have predicted to not only get promoted, but at least be very close or thereabouts in the promotion race and be a potential dark horse in the All-Ireland Championship. Maybe not a dark horse. I don't think many people have really said that. But in terms of being a surprise package in 2023, and Meath have said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. They've gone there, turned them over, beaten them in their own backyard, beat them in the end by 4 points in the end. I think it was. Massive victory for Meath. And worrying times now for Cork. And all of a sudden, Cork play Kildare away next week, and then they play Dublin at home, and beating both of those two sides will be tough. Look, I wouldn't put it past Cork. I think they're a good team. They've got good players, and Kildare weren't brilliant against Dublin. They were largely quite good, and Dublin, to be fair, were very poor as well. So, Cork mightn't be a million miles away from those two counties. But at the same time, quite a strange performance really from Cork, because they were in control for large parts. They were leading by like 4 or 5 points early on. They were controlling the game, and it was just like the game sort of drifted past them really. And it wasn't really until that Jordan Morris goal in the second half where things just started to unravel. And to be honest, like, Cork looked quite leggy, I felt, and maybe going quite strong in the McGrath Cup has caught up with them a little bit, because they looked a little bit just kind of ran out of energy, really. And, their defence was cut open time and time again. I mean, Meath got 3 goals in this game, but could have easily got 4 or 5. I remember Micheál Martin have to make a couple of good saves in the first half. I remember, I think he got one off the line from Jordan Morris at one point. And they were cut open time and time again. And considering, Cork were fairly defensive under John Cleary last year, and they defended quite well against Dublin and defended quite well against Kerry. Didn't concede a goal in either of those games. You're bringing Kevin Walsh in, who's kind of more known as more of a pragmatic kind of defensive coach from when he was in charge of Galway. But we didn't see that at all. We did not see that at all. And Cork they looked like they were caught in two minds really, between going for it and being defensive and trying to keep what they had. And, they never really put the afterburners on and really tried to go for it. But I think you've got to give a lot of credit to Meath. I mean, Shane Walsh in particular was very impressive. 1-7. His first goal was absolutely superb. He sends Kevin O'Donovan to his nearest cleaners, turns him inside and out, and then slots it comfortably beyond Micheál Martin. That was a wonderfully taken goal there from Shane Walsh. 7 points in total as well. 1-7 is what he finished with. Really impressive stuff. Jordan Morris with 1-2. Again, in the second half, Meath cut open Cork defensively, play that pass into Jordan Morris, who, fists it into the back of the net. Killian O'Sullivan as well, very impressive, 1-1. Was largely quiet enough until he got his goal, but, run straight through the middle. And just the marking was just very poor from Cork. It was far too easy there. And, I thought Meath played well, but they weren't amazing or, overly brilliant. I mean, they were very good, but I think Cork at times allowed them to play as well as they did. They were just far too lazy at the back, I thought. But you have to give credit for Meath. Like, they took the advantage. They kept themselves within the game. Obviously, I was watching this on the third coverage on TG Carr, so you knew the result, obviously, before watching the game. And, obviously you were watching it from, knowing that Meath won the game. But at the same time, I was kind of like watching it and being like, Meath were very slow to get going. Like, they got a goal in the 6th minute, didn't get their first point until the 16th minute from Matthew Costello. It looked fairly comfortable for Cork. They looked fairly in control. They were, getting chances, getting opportunities, controlling the game. And then it just sort of unraveled in the final 20 minutes, and the legs just went from underneath Cork completely. And, attacking wise, there was just no real impetus, relying heavily on Stephen Sherlock. Like, he scored 14 points in the game out of Cork's 19. That's an extraordinary tally. It goes to show how reliant they are. But, like, outside of that, not getting enough. Brian Hurley, fairly slow, didn't really do much. A few chances dropped short, nothing really going from him. Og Jones, to be fair, scored 2 points. But apart from that, like, Brian O'Driscoll, or Barry O'Driscoll. O'Driscoll, like he got into some good positions at times, and his support play was quite good. But generally speaking, it wasn't quite there. Like it just wasn't quite there from him. And it just wasn't quite fluent enough from a Cork perspective. And considering a lot of people did expect them to be promotion contenders, defensively just very, very worrying. In my opinion. And, Meath even bringing Jack O'Connor on, who I thought made a big impact in the game. He scored a point, but he set up a couple of chances, set up a couple of scores as well. Thought he played very well. And in fairness to Meath, you have to give him credit because defensively, they were very, very well organised. Like Cork didn't really, I think I remember one goal chance, but apart from that, very few goal chances, very well set up, hard to break down. Some big challenges in, some heavy blocks in. And that's kind of been the criticism of Meath in the last couple of years, is that we know they've good forwards. We know they've good talent. We know what they offer in terms of their forwards and Jordan Morris. We've, seen him burst on the scene a couple of years ago. And he looked very impressive. Shane Walsh, seen him a couple of seasons ago, looks like a very, very good player in fairness. It was Brian O'Driscoll, by the way. I thought I was mixing up those names there, but he was looking, very good when he burst on the scene. Matthew Costello looking very good as well. Lots of very, very good players. Meath. It's just been that physicality around the midfield. Defensively, can they be organised? Can they turn teams over? Like Meath have just had a bit of a soft underbelly in the last couple of years. I felt under Andy McEntee in particular, but Colm has brought that bit of steel from that opening game, and they look fairly well coached. And look, there is improvement obviously still needed, but it's a big, big result. And, playing Clare next week, big opportunity to put right the defeat from last year in the championship. And who knows, like Meath maybe might be onto something, and maybe might be onto a bit of a promotion race. It's early days yet, and I still expect there to be bumps in the road, and, it's not going to be perfect. And I think a better team there would have beaten Meath today and would have sort of put the nail in the coffin in the first half. But you have to give them credit for being resilient and finding a way to come back into it and get those goals. It was very, very impressive. Test case says, Aaron, I thought Owen Harkin played well. Meath v Dublin in Navan. Yeah, and that's going to be a very exciting game to watch, potentially go to as well. It's going to be quite an atmosphere of that game. And who knows, it could be a promotion. It could be a game, two sides battling for promotion, especially after Meath have, turned Cork over. And, from a Cork perspective, it's a massive hit in terms of promotion. Realistically, you're looking at Dublin and Derry and thinking they're not going to drop too much points, even though Dublin were poor enough last night. They're not going to drop too much points. So Cork need to, you need to be winning these games to be in that promotion race. And playing Kildare next week, Dublin the week after. I mean, if Cork lose both of those two games, all of a sudden then Cork are once again, like last year, staring down the barrel of relegation and possibly playing in the Tailteann Cup. It's mad how quick fortunes and opinions and what everyone's thought process is after one game. But that's the reality of it. And, a lot of people were predicting Meath to potentially be in a relegation battle. They've pulled off the victory, and all of a sudden now they're the ones that we're thinking could very much be in the hunt for promotion. So, yeah, fair play to Meath. I've always said as a Dublin fan, I want to see Meath back being competitive, back being up there, because you miss the days of Dublin Meath and good rivalries and everything else. And, hopefully they can go on a bit of a run and do something. Hopefully they don't beat ourselves in Navan, but very, very good performance nonetheless. And a lot to be worked on from Cork. They just lacked a bit of urgency, I felt. And like even in the last sort of 10 minutes, it didn't really look like they didn't play like they were losing the game. Like they weren't throwing men forward or making wholesale changes or, looping Hail Mary balls into the box or trying something. Like they just sort of just ran out of ideas. They weren't really doing anything to try and change the outcome of the game. And that would be a worrying sign from a Cork perspective. And as I said, looked a little bit leggy. Did the McGrath Cup maybe have an effect on that? I don't really know. But they just looked a little bit devoid of ideas and any creative spark, I felt, sort of in the final 20 minutes of that half. But credit has to go to Meath for a top class performance, big result. And yeah, play Clare next week, get a result there, get a win. Obviously, Clare with a big result earlier against Louth. If they can turn Clare over in their own backyard, I think they've got that game at home as well. They'll be feeling confident enough about possibly going on a run for promotion. But yeah, cheers anyone who tuned in. Hit the like button, subscribe. Obviously, a couple of match reactions up on the channel today. Make sure to check them out if you haven't already. We'll be going live at 5 o'clock tomorrow to review all the National Football League action from the weekend. Some big results up and down the country. The likes of Laois getting a result at Sligo. Plenty of shocks, thrill spills, and everything else up and down the country. So make sure you tune into that. And yeah, cheers anyone who tuned in, and I'll see you all later.